The Museum Roadshow is brought to you by 125 Apparel.
Okay, the other thing that happened that has kind of disturbed archaeologists is the bones were scrubbed and perhaps borax was used on them and then they were shellacked. Well, this was 1931 and we didn't know all the appropriate procedures to use in preparing the bones, and so that caused a lot of problems later when they did want to test the bones. Well, Liz will tell more about some of the later dates, but in our work, in our research, we discovered that there were more than the one dig. That the next year, a second dig occurred. And these were the gentlemen, some of them are university staff. Dr. Jenks is there, and then some of the road crews, Carl Stephan is there, and I don't know who else they are. Liz, you can tell about that maybe. And they were looking across where the dig was. If you can see, this is where they dug up the road again, where the frost boil had been repaired. And so they had to dig her up again, or dig up the land again, and the road up. And so they were looking across that to Prairie Lake, which is right across the road. Now, so far, the skeleton was found and was first thought to be a man. So she was called Minnesota Man. When Dr. Jenks took her to the lab, he said, "This is not a man, this is a woman. It's a young female, about 15 years old. She's never had children." And so it took until 1976 to get that changed in the records to Minnesota Woman. And those women in the group know why that takes so long, because everything was a man at first. Okay? And of course she was discovered near Pelican Rapids, and a monument has been established in her honor. And this is the monument. If you go down south on 59, you will see that it says historical marker on the left side or the east side of the road. And on that is this memorial plaque. And this was not established until 1992. Okay? Now, that monument was what got Cletus and I interested in this whole project. When we first decided to retire, we retired to Minnesota, and we'd go down, we lived just off 59, and we'd drive past that, and we'd stop and read it. And then when our grandkids would come, we'd take them all over there to see the monument. Visitors, we'd take them to the monument. This is the history of this area. And on that little monument, there's not much information. And being people who like history and like to discover things, we decided, okay, we have to learn more about this Minnesota woman so that we can share it with our friends and relatives. So we got busy. And that was about 12 years ago. And we have been to local, regional, state, national libraries where we've gone through books, photographs and letters and newspaper articles and scientific publications. We've been, of course, to Otter Tail and Beckett County historical museums, as well as some others. We've been to the University of Minnesota, the Department of Archaeology and Anthropology and Geology, trying to find out more about this archaeological discovery. And we couldn't find very much. We went to the Minnesota History Center and went through all their materials. And basically they had these early newspaper articles that came out in the paper that told about this discovery. Well, you know, it was about the time of the Depression, and then they were going into World War II, and interest just was on other things, just survival and people's various economic situations. We went to Fort Snelling Historical Center, and the Office of the State Archaeologist is there, or was there at the time. And that woman was wonderful. She pulled out folders, just manila folders that you put in your file cabinet, just stuffed with letters and information and newspapers, etc. And it was a blessing, and so we were able to read through all of that. And then Hamline University had input, and some of you have heard that her age is 7,840 years. Well, that's not what we agree with, but when you think of the skeleton being tested at that time using accelerated radiocarbon dating, the bones had been contaminated so much that they would get a lower date. The early researchers said she was 18,000 to 20,000 years old. And it's our belief, after reading all this stuff that we have read, you want to come to our basement, there's piles and file folders everywhere. We have a lot. And someday we hope to establish some kind of a place there where will be a repository for all of that, so all of you can learn more. But Hamline University came up with that date, and they had a very nice poster on it. But we could not find any research that said what bones were tested, what laboratory did the testing, how were the contaminations taken into consideration that would have affected the age. And so for us, they got a date on what they did, but we're not sure that's the right date. And so at this time, I'll turn it over to Cletus because he's got the more interesting new stuff.
The Museum Roadshow is brought to you by 125 Apparel.